Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you are, wherever you may be. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day. I am Brad Franklin, creative content right here in Chesterfield, and I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. It's that time, right? The summer is right here. The sun is high, the temps are up, and what a better time to talk about Parks and Recreation here in Chesterfield. I want to welcome Neil Luther, who is the Director of Parks and Recreation here in Chesterfield, to the show. How are you, Neil?
I'm well, thank you.
Glad to have you on the show, man. Obviously, a lot going on this time of year for your department, a whole lot going on for the county. Folks are going to be in and out and doing a lot of different stuff, and certainly going to be visiting a lot of parks, going to be doing a lot of stuff with your department. Before we get into sort of some of the programming that you guys offer and what's going on this summer, I kind of want to talk a little bit, though, about you. You've been director now for how many months? When did you start?
Started in March, so I guess I'm coming up on 3 months.
Okay. And even though you're quote unquote new to that position, obviously you're not new to Chesterfield. And I want to kind of talk a little bit about sort of your background. When did you sort of start getting involved in Parks and Recreation, and how did that sort of come to be?
Well, actually, I started this career in Chesterfield because of Chesterfield. I'm a resident in the Richmond area and was coming out of graduate school in the early 90s and needed an internship to finish up and got the opportunity to come here and work in an internship capacity for Parks and Recreation.
Right.
Ended up staying around for a few years because I really came to enjoy the diversity of the work, the people, and the mission to provide places and opportunities for folks to recreate. So I got into this business in Chesterfield and moved away, had a family. We resettled in Chesterfield. We came back home when my son was born in 2002, and we settled in Chesterfield. So in many ways, coming back is a real homecoming for me.
And in terms of, when you get into this business, when you get into doing what you got into doing, how did it sort of measure up with maybe what you thought it would be over the course of your career? And I'm guessing over that time frame, because of, sort of when you started, that a lot has changed over these years. But I'm just curious, how does it sort of compare to what you thought it would be when you started that journey?
Well, the profession has evolved quite a bit, and I think we saw quite a bit actually through the several years now into COVID, where people have really recognized locally as well as nationally the value of parks and the ability to get out and find some personal sanctuary and respite. And so I think parks overall have become more valued than ever before. That's been a big shift. The other thing that I've seen over the course of my career is the philosophy and how we provide the product and the services has evolved. So the kind of parks that you would build in 1990 are very different than the expectation for what folks have today in terms of what kind of amenities and activities are available. Valuable.
Right. And in terms of coming to Chesterfield and becoming the director of a department when the county is so large, right? That's one of the things about Chesterfield that always astonishes me, is just how big the place is, right? And I can imagine for somebody who is, managing a department like yours, that is a challenge. And I'm just curious, in these first few months, how is that adapting gone for you?
Well, it is a big county. It's larger. I mean, I remember driving quite a bit here the first time around, and so I've been a lot of time in the car and getting out. We have 6 operational districts. We break the county up into service districts for maintenance purposes, and just getting out and seeing firsthand, being in a park, meeting the staff has consumed a lot of time. Right. And it's honestly one of the reasons I like this this role is being able to be outside and being able to work with people and helping them. Basically, they're very passionate about serving the community and very invested in what they do, and just getting out and putting a lot of miles on my car to the spread of the county from all the way up at Midlothian coal mines, all the way down to Matoka. That's a long distance. Yeah,
I can imagine too, as you're sort of getting used to being here, that even though you lived here obviously before, and then you came back and you've been here for a decade since, that you've learned a lot just in terms of just all of the different parks. Because there had to be parks that you didn't go to very often, right? That even as a resident that you didn't go to very often. And I can imagine in your role as you've gotten to know all the different facilities and the different amenities and things, that it's been a process to sort of get out to all of these places because there are so many of them, right?
There are, and that's again to the earlier question. One of the things again in the evolution is coming back now to see parks that I was familiar with from 30 years ago,
right?
And now to come and see, for example, we had Henricus. When I was first here, Henricus was just sort of fledgling.
Interesting.
And now we have the county has had the foresight to basically put a concerted focus into not just the historical site, but the conservation. So we have the Dutch Gap Conservation Area, a lot of emphasis on water access to the lower James. And so to see parks that have really expanded in their role and their definition and how they provide value to the residents and visitors coming into Chesterfield.
Yeah. Last one before we move to programming. I'm just curious, as you come into a role like this, being the director of a department like this in a county like Chesterfield, I'm just curious what your sort of overarching sort of thought is of the role of Parks and Rec and how vital that is to the community. I'm just curious how you see your department and the way it fits into the bigger picture for folks.
Sure. Well, that's been a life lesson in this business. And what I would say, I've been fortunate to work for several organizations in this field, and there are some commonalities, but every park department is really unique to the community that it serves. So the things that people in this community are familiar with, or hopefully familiar with, that we provide are really based on a dialogue between the community and the community members, what's important to them, and then what we are able to provide. So everything is very local in terms of where things are prioritized and what we are expected to provide. And again, that's been a real, I guess, if you look for the silver lining in the pandemic, to basically get that validation that people do value in terms of measuring quality of life, the ability to have close access to places and spaces where they can spend time with family and friends in whatever kind of recreational activity is their preference.
Right. You mentioned the pandemic, and let's talk a little about programming, because I feel like in a lot of ways, I mean, I guess in summer 2020 was a little bit like this in the sense that, folks were, vaccinated and we're starting to get out a little bit more, but it really feels like, now you're starting to, COVID is much less of a thing of focus. It's much more of like trying to return to some sort of normalcy. And I can imagine that a lot of people are going to be using Parks and Rec this summer than probably did last summer, which were more than the summer before that. And I guess we're kind of getting closer to that, back to normal. And I'm just curious, from a programming standpoint, did you guys offer more this summer going into it because of, the idea that like, hey, there's going to be more to do because we should have more to do because people are going to be wanting to have more to do?
Absolutely. We're coming back to what we would define as a more normal rhythm for us. And you said it at the beginning. Summer is our, that's our bread and butter month, and with COVID, the last couple summers have been very odd for an organization that is accustomed to working hands-on with people, particularly children in the camp program. And this year, we're really back to what feels more normal, and certainly going back to the basics and providing camp and camp opportunities, the special event activity, outdoor events, a more normal summer for us, which is great. Because again, people have been, anxious to get back to some kind of normalcy, and for us to be able to support that, it's been really great.
So here coming up soon, obviously 4th of July, a big celebration. Talk to me a little about sort of what you guys have planned and what kind of things can folks expect this year.
Yeah, July 4th is just around the corner, so that's sort of the milestone for the summer months. We're going to be back at the fairgrounds, at Chesterfield Fairgrounds. We have Kings of Swing as the entertainment act, and I think it's about a 25-minute fireworks show.
Oh wow!
There's food vendors. We have a family fun zone for the kids. So it's the 4th of July that people are familiar with. We're just glad to be back in that capacity. So I hope folks can come out. The gates open up at I believe at 5. And Kings of Swing take the stage. It's a free event in terms of gate admittance. And please follow us if you haven't already. You can find all the updated information on all our social media outlets and our webpage.
Yeah. Now, obviously, as you mentioned, sort of outdoor venues and outdoor events, the After Hours series is, the first concert, I believe, is July the 22nd. I think it's at 6 p.m. Gates are at 5.
That's right.
I think Aaron Lewis leads things off, and then it goes to Collective Soul and Switchfoot, which is as a guy who listened to a lot of rock music through the 90s and early 2000s. Those are two names that definitely ring a bell for me. That goes July the 27th. I'm just curious, from your point of view, what is it about this series that is so special, and why should folks be so excited about it?
Well, I think it's a great. We tried something with event makers last year and did a one-off at the fairgrounds, and we really have been looking at River City Sportsplex. Obviously, it's a great resource for the community, but it's been sort of focused more on the athletic activities.
Right.
So the ability to use that same location, that space,
right, for
a community entertainment venue has been great. So we're really looking forward to this partnership. As you said, it kicks off in July, late July, and concerts run through, I think the last one's in October. Collective Soul. Yeah. I'm excited to see Government Mule, which takes us to, I'm more of a Southern rock and blues kind of a guy, but that's in August.
Okay.
So again, it's a great venue, and we're really looking forward to this partnership and providing something at River City that is not just a tournament, a sports tournament, but really has a sort of a different twist on value for the community.
And obviously, I think it's something that everybody hopes continues into the future. So definitely, folks, give that a look as well through all of the different acts and things that are coming to town.
I would mention on that too, as one of the lead sponsors. So this is Chesterfield Presents. So we've been working. Please follow us on social media. If you haven't subscribed to our social media feed, do so, because we have ticket giveaways planned for every one of these concerts that we're going to be raffling off and maybe doing some fun little giveaways. Okay. So follow us, contact us, and stay tuned.
Good deal. Now, earlier you mentioned camps. Obviously, that's a big focal point for what you guys do, especially with kids. And I'm just curious, what are some of the things available throughout July and August on the camp circuit? Well,
again, we're back to our more normal portfolio. So we have camps that run the spread from really focused in on history through our partnership with the Chesterfield Historical Society. Henricus has their own camp programs. Then we have more general day camps that are sprinkled out at some of our community recreation centers, as well as at some of our partnerships through being in the schools. We've got too many to name. I know that the camps start up here in a few weeks in end of June. From where we're taping, but by the time this airs, we still have capacity for some of the July and August sessions. Again, we are low cost and try to be high value, so I would encourage listeners, if they're looking for something for their children to do, again, to look us up online. You can go straight to our web platform, search the camp offerings, and go right into registration from there. And we do have some capacity available across the spread.
How late in the summer do your camps typically go? Do they go all the way to?
They wind down in mid-August.
Okay. So at this point, folks still have plenty of time to get their kids involved and get them out there.
They do. And reach out to us, and we'll be glad to help you if you've got questions. But we'd love to. We've got, at last count, I think maybe 150 or so spaces available, and we'd love to fill them.
Cool. Now, in terms of the impact, I mean, you mentioned earlier, you didn't use the term Super Bowl, but that's the thing that popped in my head, is that, like, for you guys, summer is kind of like your Super Bowl, right? It's the time you're the busiest. There's a lot going into it, and obviously a lot of folks coming through the different programs and the different venues and that kind of thing. And I'm just curious, of what you guys do, how big of a piece of the pie is our summer camps?
Well, it's a huge piece of the pie for us, and really when you talk about programming and sort of adding that extra value to the community, it's the backbone of what we do. And because we really want to serve families first, and that focus on getting youth involved in something productive for the summer is part of our core mission. We want to help those families that, honestly, a summer camp might be the highlight for that kid for that summer. And so we take that role very, very seriously, and it is our Super Bowl from the standpoint. it's really the basic of what we strive to do.
Yeah. Now, one other thing for the summer I wanted to mention was National Night Out. That's Tuesday, August the 2nd. Stonebridge Recreation Center from 11 to 2 that day. Bensley Park from 6 to 9, and then Ettrick Park from 6 to 8. I'm just curious of how you see National Night Out and what kind of things are kind of on the docket, so to speak, for this year.
Well, it's a great partnership. I probably should go back and mention even within our summer camps, we're using Chesterfield, the Police Athletic League, to be a co-partner with us in providing staff resources for our general camps. And National Night Out is a continuation of that effort to work collaboratively with the community policing, and our resources to really get down into the communities we serve. And every community has maybe a little bit of a different priority or need, and we want to work at that community level, neighborhood level, to provide resources. The basics are pretty much food, fun, and fellowship. As long as the weather cooperates, it's pretty easy to bring folks together, and that's what we're all about, is bringing folks out in a fun community setting, and to break down some of those barriers in terms of working with residents and the community members. Yeah.
Now, obviously, a big focus for us today has been summer, but I'm just curious, as you sort of look to your first fall as the director, what and obviously dates, times, all that fun stuff. But I'm just curious, what kind of things are you guys thinking about for fall and beyond in terms of what you could offer?
Well, you mentioned summers are sort of our prime season, but I'll be honest, we don't really have a down season. Fall is actually one of the prime time for special events. Everybody, as the weather turns a little cooler and we get past the Labor Day mark, we're still outside, and we have a lot of things going on. I would remind listeners that within our portfolio, we have the Henricus Foundation. Henricus Park is underneath us, as well as the Cooperative Extension. So we're constantly running programs that are based on working with our partners to get out in the community. And, of course, fall is a big time for us, too, because it's a return to the fall sports. We're just sort of closing the books on baseball and softball. They'll move now to tournaments, but football and soccer
we're right there behind them.
Are already they're already thinking about two-a-days and practices leading into the fall.
Absolutely. So. Well, one last thing before we let you go. I'm just curious, and I kind of want to circle back a little bit to our previous conversation and sort of bridge it to what we just talked about with programming. How special is it to you to be the director of this department and doing so much work in the community that you live? I know that was a big focal point for you in coming here and taking this job. I'm just curious, as now that you're in the thick of it, right? Like you're in the trenches. How much fun is that, and how special is it for you to have that experience?
Well, I'm really grateful. Like I said, when we moved back here, it was intentional to settle in Chesterfield to raise our family. And so it is very meaningful to me. This is where as my kids have grown up, we've been active participants, and for me to now be able to give back and work with a great group of folks with a lot of great support from the community and the elected leadership, it's just been a real blessing for me personally to be in this role. So I'm here to basically do whatever I can to help the department grow to better things, and it does feel really special to me to be a part now of my community in a more meaningful way.
Yeah, cool. Well, Neil, thank you very much for coming on the podcast and talking to us about all the stuff going on at Parks and Rec.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Now, make sure you check us out on social media. On Twitter, it's at Chesterfield VA, and on Instagram, it's Chesterfield, Virginia, all one word. And on Facebook, check out our podcast page. Just search Chesterfield Behind the Mic. Make sure you like that page so you can keep up with us as we go forward. Now, let me give you all the ways you can check us out. You can watch the show on our YouTube channel, as well as on our website, Chesterfield.gov/podcast. An audio-only version of the show is available there, as well as on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, and a whole host of other services. You can also watch the podcast on WSCCT Thursday through Sunday at 7, on the weekends at noon. That's Comcast Channel 98 and Verizon Channel 28. And lastly, you can check out Chesterfield.gov/connect with us for more ways for us to get in touch with you and you to get in touch with us. I want to thank my director, Martin Stith, my executive producer, Susan Pollard, and all the good folks here at Communications and Media for making this possible. And I want to thank you for giving us a look today. So, from all of us here in Chesterfield, thank you very much for making us a part of your day. We'll see you again real soon. Take good care.